ARK Invest's Cathie Wood recently did an epic new podcast. I'll link in the description if you guys want to watch the full thing. And apparently Tesla came up a few times. Actually, I think this comment on the full podcast summed things up. This episode feels like an ad for Tesla and Elon, with a laughing crying emoji. The question I guess we would ask ourselves is that because from an investment point of view, Elon Musk-led Tesla are going to be the most consequential company from an investor's point of view over the next 5, 10 plus years? Is that why an interview with one of the world's leading investing experts, Cathie Wood of ARK Invest, would result in Elon Musk and Tesla coming up a lot? Well, you guys can make up your own mind. First, we're going to listen to Cathie Wood explaining ARK's attempt at alerting investors to where the real value creation would happen in AI. Then on to Cathie Wood explaining ARK Invest's $2,600 per share price target for Tesla. That's a 5-year fair valuation estimate. Not far off a 10x as I record this. And then, I'm sure you can all guess, but Cathie's also asked if she could only invest in one stock right now. What would it be? Anyone want to take a guess before we get to that? I'm going to be on the edge of my seat until we find out.
Well, our largest position in the flagship strategy, ARKK, is Tesla. And as we were trying to help people understand why we were swapping away from NVIDIA to stocks like Tesla and Palantir, which is a software provider, we were trying to explain that this new world around AI is going to happen very quickly. And Tesla is the largest AI project on Earth. I posted that on X and Elon liked it, so it must be true. But it is true if our research is correct. We believe that the entire ecosystem associated with autonomous taxi networks is going to be worth $8 to $10 trillion in terms of revenue generation in the next 5 to 10 years. And if you want to put that in context, the entire GDP of the world today is about 130 trillion. So 10 trillion is going to move the needle.
Tesla are launching their first Cybertaxi, I believe, in Austin in June, potentially?
Yes. So the cyber cabs will launch next year, but in Austin in June, those will be Model Ys. And I'm looking to buy another Model Y because it will, in effect, be a cyber cab. Okay. And if I chose to, I could have my Model Y drive me to work and then let it out for the day and earn money on it, have it pick me up at the end of the night. And some people will do that. And Tesla will provide the platform for that.
Cathie Wood says that Tesla is the biggest AI project, opportunity, whatever you want to call it, in the world. I strongly agree. Unless somebody can provide a counterexample of another company with now 8 million data collecting semi-autonomous robots on wheels on planet Earth today, an approximate decade-long history of working on this project, unmatched capabilities, an incredibly talented team, never mind the humanoid robot. And what Cathie was getting at there with that point is that while companies producing hardware, e.g. NVIDIA, to train AI are printing money right now, the hardware is really fertile soil and fertilizer to germinate the true seeds of value creation that will sprout up in AI, which is this software that required the hardware. Many investors got super frothy, whipped up into a frenzy over AI hardware training. But if you thought the surge in revenue and profits for companies like NVIDIA, if you thought that was insane, just wait until you see what happens when the AI platforms themselves begin to scale rapidly. Cathie also mentioned, by sake of comparison, global GDP versus the midterm revenue potential for autonomous vehicles, accurately describing this as a needle mover. But I don't think most people are ready to accept this as a realistic possibility. They either think, oh yeah, it might happen, but it's going to take 5, 10 plus years to play out even meaningfully. So therefore, I'll just wait 5 or 10 years before I load up on these companies. But the thing about software and AI specifically is we keep seeing these hockey stick moments of capability increases where out of nowhere, we've seen this happen with image categorization maybe a decade or so ago. Is that a dog or a cat? Cool. AI's not too bad at this job. Holy shit, AI's near perfect at this job next minute. Image generation went from interesting to slightly better and even more interesting, but still your 3-year-old could probably draw, paint, or create better than AI, to suddenly world-class image generation, any style, any era, any technique, any subject matter you want, almost instantly. Same happened with language models, essentially progressing from a glorified chatbot with an IQ of about 3 to being able to pass medical exams, law exams, all kinds of things, right? Enormous essays, do deep, fairly well-reasoned research at the click of a button. We've seen the same hockey stick moment with video generation from AI as well. But this will definitely not happen with autonomous vehicles or humanoid robots, therefore ignore everything I said. And while we're ignoring things, I suspect everyone's going to do exactly that regarding Cathie's comments about being able to buy a Model Y and then if she chooses, have it go out and make her money while she's at work by picking up passengers and dropping them off autonomously. If investors really believe this would happen and that it would scale rapidly, and that Tesla has a generalized solution here, meaning there aren't any meaningful roadblocks to them scaling rapidly, because then vehicles know how to drive, period, as opposed to knowing how to drive in a pre-mapped little pocket of a certain city using LiDAR, radar, and a bunch of other stuff. I don't think Tesla would currently be a sub $1 trillion market capitalization. I think most investors are so skeptical that this will either happen or so skeptical in the timing that will meaningfully impact Tesla's financials that they automatically reject the idea. Either A, ain't going to happen, or B, it's so far into the future I'm not even going to think about the opportunity now. Now we're going to skip ahead on related matters though. How can we not watch this, the chapter title, Why Tesla Will 10x in the next 5 years?
And CRISPR and Tesla. So if I start with Tesla, you were bullish on Tesla. You were making big predictions about Tesla before pretty much anyone else out there. I think in 2015. Mm-hmm. And at the time in 2015, you said that you believed the stock would get above 4,000 roughly.
Right, on the old stock.
Yeah, before the stock split.
Yes.
And you were right by some significant margin. I think you predicted it would be 4,000 before the stock splits. And I think at its peak, that equates to about 18,000, maybe 12,000 at its peak.
Yes, well,
in that region.
We were right about 2 early years, or Tesla got to where we believed it would go 2 years before most expected. You know, in 2018 and 19, many people, as Elon was discussing and describing production hell for the Model 3, many people thought the company would go bankrupt. And yet we knew that if Elon Musk could create a reusable rocket that could land on a barge in the water, he would be able to figure out how to produce at scale the Model 3. That was, to us, a simple conclusion. Now, as in hindsight, as we're learning from Tesla, production hell, and they themselves were worried. That's why Elon slept on the floor in the production factory and just became maniacally involved, which is how he works. So yes, and now our prediction, the stock is, I'm not going to be exactly right on this, $270, $280. Our prediction in 5 years is $2,600. And 90% of that valuation comes not from the electric vehicle, but from this Robotaxi platform. Because the electric car, if you think about it, is, a one-shot sale. Sell and hope they come back when they're replacing their car.
This is
Valid point there from Cathie Wood. The vehicle sales, the hardware itself, it's a one-off transaction. And even in the best case scenario, very measly profit margin selling hardware. For example, you literally need to move a lot of atoms around. That requires a lot of energy, time, and incurs enormous cost. Very different to software, where you're essentially transmitting information almost instantly at the speed of light. To most folks, I think their immediate reaction to a $2,600 per share fair valuation for Tesla 5 years from now is to just dismiss out of hand. But if Cathie's right, this transformation of Tesla's business, where, as ARK believe, 90% of the company's value is on the back of their autonomous vehicle business, we could see Tesla's annual, quarterly, pick your metric, pick your time frame, profits from their autonomous vehicle business go from 0% of the company's total profits to equaling Tesla's entire existing business in terms of profits, then doubling it, then tripling, and on and on and on and on and on. And a lot faster than I think most people believe is possible.
A one-shot sale, sell and hope they come back when they're replacing their car.
This essentially means that we'll be driving cars that we can click a button and then it becomes an autonomous taxi. So I go on holiday, I have my Tesla car at my house. When I go on holiday, the car turns into a taxi and starts chauffeuring people around. It makes me money. But also from the consumer's perspective that are trying to hail a taxi, at any point I can go on my Tesla app, press a button, a autonomous car comes to me with no one driving it, and it takes me to my destination with no driver at all.
Right.
And then the recurring revenue model, I believe, is you subscribe.
It probably could. It
to the network?
Could be you could subscribe to the network, or they could, maybe it could be either or subscription or a la carte if you don't think you're going to use it that much. So now, when I'm here in the UK and Europe, many people do not believe what you just said. And they don't because your regulators have not allowed FSD here. I think they might, somewhere in Europe, I think they're beginning to consider it. Maybe even in the UK here, they are considering it. In St. Petersburg, Florida, where we're based, I can go from my house to anywhere, and flawlessly, the car will take me there. Now, we still have to sit in the driver's seat for now, but in June or soon thereafter, when they turn the system on, if regulators permit, right now we're state by state, I think that's going to change so that we'll have federal regulation so that this can happen a lot faster. One other thing about Tesla, though, in that $2,600 number,
I know where this is going. We don't include any evaluation for Tesla's Optimus humanoid robot, which, by the way, at scale will dwarf anything Tesla could possibly do with autonomous vehicles.
We do not include much for humanoid robots. Now, this is happening faster than we thought. And the reason it's happening faster is humanoid robot. They are the convergence of the same three technologies or innovation platforms as robotaxis, robotics, so actuators and so forth, getting them to work, energy storage, battery operated, and AI. So Tesla's way ahead of the game on humanoid robots, and yet we have very little. Now, Elon thinks that the humanoid robot business is going to dwarf the robotaxi business.
Not only does Elon think, but so too does the guy currently speaking to you think. Assuming that Tesla does successfully scale their humanoid robots. By the way, one factor for the humanoid robots scaling faster than Cathie would expect that wasn't mentioned but is really important. The stakes are much, much lower when it comes to putting humanoid robots into the real world than autonomous vehicles. Because autonomous vehicle makes a mistake, someone can die, get injured, permanently disabled. A humanoid robot makes a mistake, maybe it drops a parcel in your warehouse. At most, it's probably annoying, inconvenient, and unproductive, as opposed to literal life and death, meaning Tesla can potentially scale their humanoid robot business much more aggressively and take more risks because there isn't such an asymmetry in terms of making a mistake and apocalyptic negative consequences with humanoid robots versus autonomous vehicles. Now, let me explain why humanoid robots will utterly dwarf autonomy. It's actually really simple. If you draw a pie chart, big fuck off gigantic circle that represents global GDP, then you draw a small slice to represent the entire potential future autonomous vehicle business, e.g., all forms of transportation being replaced by AI as opposed to a human driver. Taxis, buses, you name it, that's a small slice of global GDP, a tiny slice of the pie, a meaningful slice, but it's only a slice. Whereas, if you can successfully scale useful, intelligent humanoid robots, that opportunity is the entire pie, but wait, there's more. The limiting factor, the gating factor for the size of that entire pie is, wait for it, intelligence multiplied by labor. In other words, if successful, humanoid robots can grow the entire pie and not just represent a small slice of that ever-increasing pie, but the entire pie. This is the bird's eye view of why this is such a gigantic opportunity. In short, autonomy is a slice of today's pie. It might expand a little bit because lower cost per mile, more people can access. Humanoid robots are the whole fucking pie, and they can essentially bake infinite numbers of pies. So you do the math.
And we think he's right, but longer term. So as I mentioned, we expect all in around the world, including China, not just Tesla, but the entire ecosystem, an $8 to $10 trillion market in the next 5 to 10 years. For humanoid robots, we expect a $26 trillion revenue market. Now, that's going to be a little further along. Robotaxis will happen faster, but it may not be as distant as we were once thinking.
For anyone that doesn't know, humanoid robots are basically robots that we'll have in our home and at work. So there was a video that I think Elon retweeted the other day showing one of the humanoid robots dancing.
Dancing, yes.
Was that real? I was like looking at that video thinking, surely that's not real. But he confirmed, I believe, that it was real.
Yes. Now, when we went to the Cybercab event, there were some humanoid robots dancing there, but they were tethered and they were remotely controlled.
Yeah.
Now, Cybercab, I think, was...
about a year ago.
Yes, maybe. So since then, they've been able to untether them. And I do believe that that dancing robot was not tethered and not remotely controlled.
It was quite shocking to see a robot doing that, because if a robot can have that dexterity and mobility, and then you overlay that with the AI technologies that are accelerating rapidly, it begs the question. And the question is quite clear, which is, what about humans?
Yes.
Now that is the question, and great observation, by the way. The two key components for useful humanoid robots: you need a brain, a big brain, and you need a useful body. Dexterity, finesse, locomotion is a very, very small, not insignificant, but fairly minor piece of the puzzle in terms of the actual physical embodiment. If you can move around, cool story. But what a humanoid robot really needs physically are brilliant hands. Manipulating objects with our hands as a human becomes second nature. You don't even think about it. But this is the biggest challenge outside of the brain itself, is mastering the hand. If you have intelligence, but you can't use your hand, well, not super useful. At least not in a general sense. But just imagine a big brain plus an extremely capable pair of hands. A humanoid robot with these two ingredients can do anything. So this is the stuff to pay attention to. The dancing demo from Tesla's humanoid robot recently was very impressive. Not because, well, cool, it can do some dance moves, but the fluidity, the human-like movement, the entire body. It's like a scaled up version of a hand. The next big bombshell I expect we'll see from Tesla are stunning demonstrations of what Optimus humanoid robots can do with their hand. Insert inappropriate joke here.
And just to put a finer, note on this, Elon will not be satisfied until these robots can thread a needle. So that's where...
Oh, shit, I spoke too soon. And again, this is actually really important. At the moment, the best I've seen with humanoid robots in terms of their dexterity with the hands is very ordinary. Young toddler level. I mean, can kind of grip things and move stuff, but very clunky. We still don't yet have that level of finesse. But when it happens, holy fuck. If you can manipulate objects as well as, if not better, than a human. And by the way, if anyone wants an example of what I'm talking about with better than a human, try brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand and realize the difference between your dominant hand and non-dominant. Just imagine that same degree of improvement, but beyond your dominant hand. At some point, humanoid robots will be far more capable with their hands than humans are at just about every task. And then what can't they do as long as they've got the big brain in addition to the incredible hands? The answer is, well, they can do just about everything, including things we can't even do.
Where we're going.
What does that mean for humans?
So, the history of technology is that it has been a net job creator throughout history. But humanoid robots are getting awfully close to what we do, right? So it's a good question.
Now, I've thought about this a lot. I've discussed this going back a number of years. In my opinion, there's going to be a massive crisis of meaning and purpose, especially for men. Trigger alert, men and women are different. Did you know that? This will affect everybody, but men especially, and here's why. Most men are wired to protect and provide. We're hardwired. We have a need to have a clear North Star, a strong direction and purpose, and be pursuing that. Otherwise, just think about what happens to a guy who loses a job, loses a career, and doesn't pick up the pieces quickly. 9 times out of 10, downward spiral, drinking, addiction, depression, next minute, don't even want to be here. A guy who's on his purpose, pursuing a mission that's meaningful, is unstoppable, especially as a provider for a family. Imagine what happens when AI and or a humanoid robot can do a guy's job better than he can. Guy's going to feel useless, may be put out of a job, then what? This is something we should all be thinking about now. Now, why did I say men and women are different? Well, here's the thing. Are you ready to get mad? Most women will be fulfilled, content, and have their purpose by having children and raising a wonderful family. That's not to say that women can't find fulfillment elsewhere, but 9 women out of 10 got your family sorted, tick. This is not true for men, and men are going to be disproportionately affected by this massive disruption. Let me poll the audience. How many men watching, if they lose their job because a humanoid robot can do their job better than they can, are going to feel useless if they can't provide for their family any longer? Start thinking about how you're going to find meaning and purpose in a world where that may not and then will not be derived through either your job, your career, or the highest level of all, your mission and purpose. Because it's coming, folks. P.S. in completely related matters, my YouTube audience is like 90+% male. Any reason why that would be? Well, I can actually answer that question. Continuing the men and women are different thing. Men on average are much more interested in things than people, but more important than that, why is it that every investment related channel is an abso-fucking-lute sausage fest? Because again, I'm right. Men are wired to protect and what's the other word? Provide. Why are guys so interested in investing at like a 10-to-1 ratio versus women? Our evolutionary wiring to provide for a family. So guys, start thinking what's going to happen when that provider role gets disrupted by intelligent humanoid robots. And now the suspense is about to be over. Cathie Wood is asked if she could only invest in one stock. Right now, what would it be?
If I just had to invest in one stock right now, what stock would you recommend I invested in?
Okay, well, I have to give you
your portfolio.
Top pick.
So it would be Tesla.
It would be Tesla if I had to give you one stock.
Isn't that a funny coincidence? The only stock I've been buying essentially for almost the last decade straight was Tesla, with every spare cent. By the way, don't try this at home. Or do, I don't give a fuck. Use your brain, make your own decisions. I do want to underscore though, I don't have an aversion to owning other stocks, by the way. It's just essentially over the last decade, every time I ask myself, 10 years from now, does Tesla look like a good deal based on what it's available for today? And am I aware of any better risk-adjusted opportunities? Every time I ask myself this question, for about a decade straight, Teslas look like a bargain today, and I haven't been aware of any greater risk-adjusted opportunities. Plenty out there, I'm sure, I just haven't been able to find them. The best part of all, though, when I first began buying Tesla stock, I absolutely was not thinking useful, intelligent humanoid robots. The potential upside for Tesla, my biggest investment, my only stock. I do have obviously some real estate as well, for those who don't know. But the potential upside has grown by more than one order of magnitude since I began buying. That call option on Elon Musk has certainly paid off.
Because think about it. It is a convergence among three of our major platforms. So robots, energy storage, AI. And it's not stopping with robotaxis. There's a story beyond that with humanoid robots. And our $2,600 number has nothing for humanoid robots. We just thought it'd be an investment period and, but I think he's going to start generating not only productivity gains internally, but revenues from humanoid robots.
So as we heard earlier, 90% of ARK's $2,600 per share fair valuation for Tesla is autonomy. Riddle me this. If humanoid robots at scale dwarf autonomy, forget the time frame for a moment, but just play along at home. 90% of that $2,600 per share for Tesla stock, that's $2,340 per share just from autonomous vehicles. Let's say hypothetically humanoid robots are a mere 5x that amount. We could be talking about $11,000+ per share. When the math's pretty simple, 10 times we could be talking over $20,000 a pop. What if it's a mere double? We're still approaching $5,000 per share. Now, these aren't predictions for what will happen to Tesla stock. It's just a thought exercise. If the humanoid robot opportunity is double, 3x, 5x, 10x that of autonomy at scale, what could Tesla's market cap be in the future? Personally, I'm not going to be betting against Elon Musk. I think that Tesla will be massively successful with humanoid robots. And 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now, I look forward to seeing how things have played out. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 is awesome. I've been taking it daily now for more than 3 years. It's a great way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's packed full of vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus has prebiotics, probiotics, and adaptogens to improve gut health, regularity, and help your body handle stress. I'm always looking for an edge to help me feel and perform my best, which is why I haven't missed a day of AG1 for more than 3 years. Just try it and see how you feel. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs.